So we're coming to Shabbat Zachor, Shabbat when we read about Amalek, coming to Purim. So I want to talk about just really one concept that is something that I think all of us have heard about, but what I want to do is deepen our understanding, and through the deepening of the understanding, hopefully we'll merit to really not so much understand this, because it's a concept that you can understand in 3 seconds, but to live it. And I doubt any of us, well, I'm sure none of us live this completely. In the letters that Reb Brennan wrote to the Rav, there's a phrase that repeats itself very often. And Reb Brennan often says to the Rav, Lo yimna tov mehaolech tamim. The Creator cannot, will not ever hold back good, blessings, light from a person who goes tamim. Now that word tamim doesn't have a very good translation in English. Sometimes they translate it as simple. But what it refers to is, to use simple examples, is the person who never questions, never doubts the things that happen to him that don't make sense. Now the problem with the concept of tamim, of tmimut, is that often people think that they have this level because maybe they're not very smart, maybe they, there's a lot of people who seem to have, sort of simple, we'll say trust, but it's not built on a foundation of understanding, and it's certainly often not built on a foundation of work. When we talk about, and we'll talk a little bit more about, on the one hand, there's no probably greater tool that we can use to draw to our lives endless light. And then on the other hand, there is probably nothing that Chas v'Shalom can damage a person or open him up to all kinds of negativity, which is represented by Amalek, than a lack of this tmimut, this simplicity. But what I want to make very clear is that there's the simplicity that one thinks he has, that doesn't come from great work or great understanding. And then there is the other that we are talking about. This level of tamim, which comes after a tremendous amount of work, which comes after a tremendous amount of understanding. There's a famous quote from the Ramchal who said, after a person studies, he comes to the realization that he knows nothing. But the difference between the person who never studies and knows nothing and the person who studies and realizes he knows nothing is that the person who studied and realized he knows nothing is his lack of understanding, his lack of knowledge is full of light. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about coming to the level of tamim, which is a person who, no matter what happens to him, no matter what another person does to him, doesn't have a doubt for 1 second, doesn't question for 1 second. He knows that this is coming from the Creator, and he knows this is for him, what is best for him. There was a Tanakh that was here. It's not here now. So somebody from here. So first I want to begin. It says in Dvarim, Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. It says in the Torah that a person should be simple with the Creator. What does that mean? Rashi, the great Kabbalist and commentator, says, Hitalech imo bitmimut. Walk with the Creator with simplicity, because you cannot achieve the level of being constantly walking, like it says about Avraham, about Noach, about Chanoch, that they achieve the level of being walking consistently with the light of the Creator, unless you achieve this level of simplicity. Utetzapelo, and therefore you know that no matter what is happening, it's coming from the Creator, and you know that good will come from it. Kol ma sheyavo alecha kabel betmimut. Whatever happens to you, accept with that simplicity. Ve'az tiyeh imo ulechelko. And then you will be with the Creator, and you will be a part of the Creator. So, this level, what we call simplicity, which is the level where anything that happens to you, whatever happens to you, you accept it, not because you understand it, but because you know that it's coming from the Creator, and you never doubt, you never upset another person. You have this level of tmimut. Now what happens if we don't have this level of tmimut? So I want to go back to the story of the brothers and Yosef, the brothers and Joseph. We know that the 10 brothers were very elevated souls. And before they decided to sell their brother down as a slave to Egypt, they sat down and had a bet din, a court. And it says that the Shekhinah joined them. The Shekhinah joined their court. And we know that their argument was that our brother Yosef, our brother Joseph, is speaking Lashon Hara to our father. And because of that Lashon Hara, he's going to cause separation between us and our father Yaakov, Jacob. And therefore we have to judge and see what's right. Should we separate him? Should we cause him to go down to Egypt so that he can no longer cause separation between us and Yaakov, or not? And they came to judge, and their desires were pure. This was not an ego question. Their desires were pure. And the judgment they came to was, of course, wrong, because they came to the conclusion that you need to sell Joseph down to Egypt. And the question that the Kabbalists ask, we know that it says, Elokim nitzav ba'adat kel, that whenever a person has a pure desire if a person is a judge or he's sitting in judgment, that his judgment will be correct, then the Creator is with him. And no matter what the witnesses come and say, no matter what lack of information he might have, the Creator will make sure that his judgment will be right at the end. It says, Hashem lo yazveno biyado velo yarshieno behishafto. If the Creator, meaning if the judge or the judges are pure in their desire for their judgment to be right, the Creator will make sure that no matter what happens, they won't make a mistake. Again, the witnesses might lie, or the information they get might be wrong, but if their desire is pure, the Creator is there, and they won't make a mistake in judgment. So the question is, what happened with the brothers? Their desire, the Kabbalists tell us, was pure. It was pure. Their only thought was to do what's right. They had no thoughts of ego, no thoughts of desire to receive for themselves alone. So how is it, if that's true, that if a judge has pure desires, then the Creator is there with him and makes sure he won't make any mistakes? How did the brothers come to the wrong conclusion? So we spoke about the fact that the brothers were concerned about Joseph and the Lashon Hara, the negative things that he was saying to their father. What was their fear? We know that Abraham had 2 sons, and that one of them, Yitzchak, continued in the path of his father Abraham, and the other one, Yishmael, went off the path that laid forth by Abraham. Yitzchak had 2 children as well. He had Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov went on, continued in the path of his father Yaakov, and Esav veered off the path. They thought that the same will be true for Yaakov, that there are going to be those who are going to be continue in the path of Yaakov, and there are going to be those who are going to be pushed off the path, or need to be pushed off the path, like Ishmael was pushed away, or Esav was pushed away. They were afraid that if Yosef succeeds in his Lashon Hara, if Yosef succeeds in his evil speech about his brothers to their father Yaakov, that their connection to Yaakov, to their father, will be diminished. And because at that point in history, Yaakov was the only true teacher in the world, if they in some way or another lose their connection to their father, they will lose their spiritual connection, they will lose their connection to the light of the Creator. Their fear was purely spiritual. There was nothing about ego, nothing of desire to receive for themselves alone. It was clear to them. The only teacher in this world right now is our father Jacob, Yaakov, and Yosef is trying to cause separation between us and Yaakov. If he succeeds, what's going to happen is that we are going to be pushed away. We're going to lose our connection to our father, and by losing a connection to our father, we're going to lose our connection to the light of the Creator. But the fear, although it was a purely spiritual one, was still a fear. It was still a lack of tmimut, a lack of simplicity. Because simplicity means not just that I don't worry about the physical. If this happens to me, I know that it's coming from the Creator. I know at the end it will be what is best for me, and therefore I am simple with it, and I don't ask. It's also about the spiritual, which means that the brothers should have said, if this is the Creator's plan, that Joseph speaks to our father negatively about us, and because of that we lose our connection to Yaakov, to our father, and because of that we lose all of our connection to the light of the Creator, and we become completely dark, we accept that. We're tamim. We're simple. Even though we can start worrying about our spiritual connection. No. If this is the Creator's plan, we accept even spiritual darkness with simplicity. But because the brothers did not accept that problem that was arising, even though it was a purely spiritual one, with simplicity, what happened? The Zohar explains that whenever one diminishes their connection to the light of the Creator, and this, what we're talking here specifically, when a person diminishes their level of connection to the light of the Creator through their simple acceptance of what is happening to them, they create an opening for the negative side to come in. And by creating that opening, for instance, the Zohar says, we know that we don't count people by numbers. But for instance, in the time of the Torah, the Creator Moses told Moshe, have them each give a coin, and we'll count the coins, we'll know how many there are. Because the Zohar says that when you count people, you make it so that blessings can't rest on them. And when blessings are not allowed to rest, there's an opening for all the forces of negativity to come in. And that's what happens when a person diminishes or lacks the tmimut, lacks the level of simplicity. And this is what happened with the brothers. We asked the question, how can it be if the brothers' desire was pure, that they wanted to know what the right thing to do with Yosef, and their entire problem with Joseph wasn't a physical problem, it wasn't an ego problem, it was purely a spiritual difficulty. He was causing and was possibly leading to a separation of the brothers from their father Yaakov, and therefore a separation from their spiritual source, and they would live in darkness. That worry, that lack of tmimut, that lack of simplicity, meaning they should have said, you know what, it looks like Joseph is speaking bad to our father about us, and it looks like possibly because of that, our father won't want to have anything to do with us, and because of that we are going to be lacking any spiritual teacher, and therefore we'll be lacking any connection to the light of the Creator. We'll wind up in darkness. But you know what? We accept it. We're simple. We don't ask. The brothers, though, asked. The brothers worried. And because they asked and they worried, they lost their level of tmimut. They allowed the negativity to come in. And the protection that usually comes to judges, for instance, is taken away from them. Because when you allow the negativity, when you allow the darkness to come in, then it comes in, and you're no longer really responsible or able to stop it. Once the brothers lost their tmimut, once the brothers lost their simplicity in their relation to their lives, and therefore in their relation to the Creator, they made an opening so that negativity can come in, and then the judgment that they made, it wasn't even their fault anymore. They were under the control of the negative side. They had no fault really, or no way to change it, once they created that opening. And that's the key here. If we understand that when we lose our simplicity, when we start asking and worrying and not understanding and being upset, and therefore we diminish our level of tmimut, we diminish our level of simplicity in our acceptance of what the Creator is putting into our lives, when we do that, we open up the doors to the sitra achat, to the negative side, and then we can do all kinds of things. We can make all kinds of mistakes. It's not really in our control anymore. We've opened up the door, and the negative side can come in. It can mess up with our head, it can mess with everything else. And that's what happened with the brothers. The mistake of the brothers wasn't that they judged Joseph to sell him down to Egypt. It wasn't even the selling down to Egypt. They had no control really of that. Once they lost their tmimut, once they lost their simplicity, everything else could happen. And they judged Joseph, and they sold Joseph down, and they brought back, and they sold their father, that their brother died. All these crazy things that happened. It wasn't their control anymore. Once they lost their simplicity, they opened the door to the sitra achra, the negative side, and everything else followed. When the Israelites, after the splitting of the sea, the Zohar relates an interesting story. Michael, did somebody bring the beginning? The Zohar relates an interesting story. After, we know that at the Kriyat Yam Suf, at the splitting of the sea, there was great light. And even after the splitting of the sea, there was, that light continued to shine right on the shores of the Yam Suf, of the river. It says, Ba'i Shata, B'chadsimu milin kulu mitbasman benafshayu. The Israelites were enjoying this great light revealed. And all they wanted to do, they were in complete bliss. They wanted to stay there and to enjoy this great light. And they didn't want to leave the shores of the Red Sea. Because they were enjoying it so much, they were having such a great spiritual time, not a physical time. Now, but Moses is trying to get them to move. He's telling them, look, we have a job to do. We have to go further into the desert now. We have to go eventually into the land of Israel. But nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to move. They're enjoying, what can be greater than this? Moses, you want us to go into the desert? There's nothing there. There's no light there. You want to push us into darkness? Look what we have here. We have levels, as the Zohar tells us, that the greatest prophets, Yechezkel, the prophet didn't reach what we're having now. We're enjoying it. It's here. The light is here. Don't push us there into the desert where there's nothing. Moshe doesn't know what to do. He tells them time after time, come on guys, there's work to do. Where? Where's the work? They ask him. There in the desert. They say, there in the darkness? We're sitting here with the light of the Creator. You want us to get up and walk into the darkness? We're not going to do it. Ba'ishata, the Zohar said, at that time, Amar Moshe lekutche berichud, Moses says to the Creator, Banayich, your children, misagiu tiuvta lestak lebach, because they're experiencing your light so powerful, they don't want to leave the shores. It's a problem because we have work to do. We have places to go. What did the Creator do? So the Creator made a trick. He took that light that was being revealed at the shores of the Red Sea, and he shined it into the desert. And there the light shined and diminished. And Moshe says to them, how many times have I told you that it's time to go, it's time to travel, and you didn't want to? And they say, okay guys, look, that light that you're experiencing here, you see it? Look in the desert, you see it there? And they say, oh yeah, now we see it. And then they went. And they did not want to leave until Moses showed them the light in the desert. And then when they realize that what they're experiencing here, they're not going to experience anymore, but it's now in the desert, Antilon Moshe. Then they decided, okay Moshe, Moses, okay, we'll listen to you, we'll go. We see that for whatever reason the light has been diminished here, now it's in the desert, we'll go there. And therefore it says, Vayasa Moshe et Yisrael miyam suf. It says that Moshe carried or made travel the Israelites from the Yam Suf into the desert. Vayitzu el midbar shur. It says they went into the desert, and the word shur literally means the desert of vision. And the Midrash, for instance, says that there's no place in the desert that is called midbar shur. It's not a physical place. My midbar shur. So the Zohar says, why is it called where they went? It's called the desert of the vision. Midbar dahababan nestak lebei ziva yekara de malka kadisha. It is the desert where they had a vision, where they desired to see and saw the great light of the Creator. And that's why it's called, where they traveled from the sea. It's called the desert of the vision, not because that's the name of the physical place, but that's how the Creator and Moshe together were able to force the Israelites to finally move. We know, of course, what happens right after that. They go over in the desert for 3 days. There's no water, which means there's no connection to the light of the Creator. Suddenly they experience complete darkness. And this here, again, is the place where Amalek, which represents these forces of darkness, is being given an opening. Amar Rabbi Elazar said, Inu nafku lemidbara leestakla. They went into the desert with the thought of seeing and connecting to the light of the Creator. And suddenly they realized, or they thought they realized, that the light that they were being shown was a mirage. It doesn't exist there. They're looking for light for 3 days. So because realize what happened, they're out in the desert, and Moshe says, let's go. There's work we have to do. And they're sitting there in bliss, experiencing the light of the splitting of the sea. They say, we're not going. We're connected to the light of the Creator. This is the greatest experience of our lives. We're not going. So Moshe and the Creator do a trick. They take that light and they put it in the desert. They say, now do you want to go? They say, oh yeah, this makes sense. This same light that we thought we had here, we can have there. Let's go there. They start traveling. And they travel for 3 days. And where's that light? They can't find it. Wasn't it here, Moses? Didn't you show it to us here yesterday? It's not there anymore. The Israelites finally realized after 3 days, something wrong. That same light that we were experiencing doesn't exist here. And therefore it says, it says, then they came to this place called Mara, and they couldn't drink the water. Their soul was not being satiated as before. Amar Rabbi Shimon. And this is a statement we have to realize and accept and live. Rabbi Shimon said, Ad dehava azli b'midbara. As they're traveling in the desert, itgali alay reshuta achara. The other side is becoming revealed unto them. Hahu deshalit b'midbara. Samech Mem, all the forces of negativity are coming onto the Israelites here in the desert. All the forces of negativity are coming down onto the Israelites. Why? What happened? What happened between the great splitting of the sea to Mara? And this is what the Kabbalists teach. They lost their tmimut. They lost their simplicity. They were experiencing light. What does logic dictate? If I'm having a great time, not a physical great time, a spiritual great time right here, and then Moses, and even the Creator says, I need to go into darkness. What's the right thing to do? The right thing to do is to stay in light. To go into darkness, Moses, to the Creator, doesn't make sense to us. If you're tamim, if you're simple in your connection to the light of the Creator, you say, you know what? This is the greatest amount of light I've ever experienced in my life. For generations, nobody will ever experience this light. But if you're telling me that what's best for me right now is to go into the desert, to go into darkness, I go with simplicity. But the Israelites didn't. The Israelites made the spiritual choice. We're going to stay with light rather than go into darkness. And what happens? What happens when you diminish your simplicity in your connection to the light of the Creator? What happens when you use your logic to make those decisions? As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, and I'll read it again because this is, again, prepares us for the gift of Shabbat Zachor and Purim. Amar Rabbi Shimon said, as they're traveling now with diminished simplicity, Itgali alay reshuta achara. They have brought upon themselves all the forces of the other side, all the forces of negativity. Why? Because they lost their simplicity. And then, of course, Amalek comes. What does it mean? Once they've lost the simplicity, once they've lost this understanding that whatever it is, it looks better, it looks worse, I accept it. All the forces of Amalek come in, and then they fall, and they fall, and they fall, and then they stay in the desert for 40 years, and then Moshe can't go into the land of Israel. Why? What caused all of that? One thing. The fact that when they had a choice to make, to be simple or to use their logic, they used their logic. And from that, they opened up the floodgates of negativity, the floodgates of the other side, and caused all the pain and suffering that came afterwards. The Zohar Chadash says something very interesting in Vayeshev. It says that at this point in the story of the Israelites, the judgment of the selling of Yosef, the judgment for the brothers selling Yosef, became awakened. Why? What's the connection between the Israelites here in the desert and the brothers selling Yosef? And the answer is, it's the same mistake. The brothers weren't simple, and the Israelites weren't simple. When a person is with simplicity, then no matter what judgments or negativity might be all around him waiting to come in, there's no opening. But when a person loses his simplicity, when a person has doubts and questions and doesn't understand and is upset and is disappointed, you open up the gates. And all that kitrug, all that negativity, chas v'shalom, that has been waiting and had nowhere to come in, finally comes in. That's what happened with the brothers. That's what happened with the Israelites here in the desert. And I want to share a story which is really an amazing story, which teaches us the other side. Real tmimut, real simplicity. It's a beautiful story. It's a sad story. The story is in Shmuel Bet, chapter 15. Many of us know that David HaMelech, King David, during his kingdom, his reign, his son Absalom decided to rise up against him, to rebel against his father, King David. One can imagine the terrible pain and emotional, spiritual, physical pain that King David was experiencing at this time. And one can expect the doubts and questions that King David could have had at this time. So I want to read a little bit from the story. It's really amazing. It says, as Absalom, King David's son, begins the rebellion, Vayishlach Absalom sends messengers throughout all the tribes, and he says, V'amartem malach Absalom bechevron. Let everybody know, Absalom, I have become king. Vayavo Magid el David le'emor, and a messenger comes to King David and tells him, Hayalev ish Yisrael acharei Absalom. Not only is your son coming up against you, but all the people, it looks like, are siding with Absalom. And King David at this point is in Jerusalem. Vayomer David lechol avadav asher ito b'Yerushalayim. So King David says, because he realized, although it wasn't true, we won't go into the details, that everybody was with Absalom, but King David says, let's go, and it sounds like it's pretty bad, and Absalom is going to come in here and kill all of us. Let's flee the city of Jerusalem. Ki lo tiyeh lanu klita mipnei Absalom. Because I'm afraid that if we stay here, Absalom is going to kill all of us out. Maharu lalechet. Let's leave quickly. Vayomeru avdei HaMelech el HaMelech, and the servants of King David say to him, Ki chol asher yivchar Adonai HaMelech hinei avadecha. Whatever you tell us to do, we will do. We are with you. Vayetzeh HaMelech v'chol beito beraglav. King David and his family, they all walk, because it's so hurried, they start walking out of the city of Jerusalem. והנה גם צדוק וכל הלוויים איתו נושאים את ארון ברית האלוקים. Tzadok, the Kohen Gadol, the Kohanim, and also the Leviim, they all come and join King David. And they say, wherever you go, we go with you. ויציקו את ארון האלוקים, and they take with them the ark. The ark, which is obviously the holiest object of the temple in Jerusalem, the place that that draws down the light of the Creator, they take, because if the king is going, and who knows, Avshalom is going to come into Jerusalem, we have to take this most powerful of tools with us. This is again an amazing point. So imagine what's happening. King David, his son is rebelling against him. He hears that most, if not all, of the Israelites are with Avshalom. His kingdom is probably over. The only reason he's king is because the Creator told him to be king. He never wanted to be king. The prophet told him, the Creator told him to be king. He's only doing this because the Creator wants him to be king. But he hears that his son is rebelling against him. He hears that his son, that most of the tribes are with him. He flees Jerusalem on foot. Him and his family, because he knows that if Avshalom catches him and his family, he's going to kill all of them. And Tzadok, the Kohen, says, if you're going, we're going with you. And of course we take the Aron, we take the ark with us. It can't be with anybody else. Vayomer HaMelech leTzadok. So King David, at this point in his life, says to Tzadok, the Kohen, Hashev et Aron ha'elokim ha'ir. Take the ark back into the city. Im emtzah chen b'nei Hashem. If the Creator wants, v'heshivani v'herani yoto ve'et navehu. If the Creator wants, I'll be able to come back one day into the city of Jerusalem, and I'll see the temple, I'll see the ark, and I'll be able to enjoy it. V'im kol yomar. But if the Creator says, lo chafatzti bach, I don't want you to be king anymore. I don't want you ever to come back into Jerusalem. These words, and if we can only remember these words, Hineni, I accept it. Ya'aseli ka'asher tov be'enav. Let him do to me whatever he desires. Let me read these again because these are amazing, amazing words. Im kol yomar lo chafatzti bach. That the Creator tells me, I don't desire to be king anymore. I don't desire to ever come back into Jerusalem. Hineni, I accept it. Ya'aseli ka'asher tov be'enav. Let him do with me what he wants, what he believes is right. We see here again all the questions that King David could be asking, all the logic that he can be using. What? I'm not going to have the ark with me? I am the king anointed by the prophet, anointed by God. I'm going to leave it for Avshalom maybe to come into Jerusalem. He's not. And besides that, what about complaining? God, how can you do this to me? I'm king only because you want me to be king. Not only are you allowing a rebellion, you're allowing a rebellion from my son? All the questions that one can ask, all the logical questions that one can have, all the logic that one can use. King David has none of it. That the Creator says, I don't want you anymore. Hineni, I accept. Ya'aseli ka'asher tov be'enav. Let him do with me what he sees as right. Rav Ashlag writes in the Rav, Lo yimna tov me'olech tamim. The Creator will not ever stop the flow of blessings for a person who goes with the Creator in simplicity. And I think many of us know the story that when the Rav, from 1962 till 1969, when Rav Berman passed away, the Rav was going through all kinds of difficult times. All kinds, financial, all kinds of, sometimes spiritual difficulties. And therefore Rav Berman keeps on mentioning this one key. With it you have everything, without it you have nothing. Lo yimna tov me'olech tamim. If you develop, and again, I want to be careful, we're not talking about simplicity that doesn't come from work. This is probably one of the most important aspects of our spiritual personality that we have to develop. Which means, something happens, I don't ask. Somebody does something, I don't get upset. This is coming into my life because the Creator put it into my life. And I accept it, I don't ask, I don't have doubts, I don't question, I am not upset, I'm not disappointed. If we can achieve, and this again, what is Amalek? Amalek is one thing. Amalek is a diminishment of tmimut, is a diminishment of this simplicity. And why? Why does he want to diminish the simplicity? Because he knows what happens. When you diminish your simplicity, when you ask, when you question, when you doubt, when you're disappointed, you open the door. That's all he needs. Then, as Rabbi Shimon tells us in the Zohar, you bring in all of it. The negative side with all of his angels and forces. Then you can make the most terrible decisions as the brothers did. You can lose all the light as the Israelites did in the desert. Because once that simplicity is gone, the door is open, Amalek comes in, the Sitra Achel, the negative side comes in, and you'll do all kinds of things. You're not even responsible anymore. You can't control yourself. The gift of Zachor, of this Shabbat, and the gift in a greater way of Purim, is to ask for this simplicity. There's only one thing we want on this Shabbat. We don't want to fight Amalek. We want to be given, and it's a gift that we have to ask for, we have to beg for. We also have to work for. We also have to work for. But to realize that if we think we're spiritual, but we question and we doubt and we don't understand and we're upset and we're disappointed, you've opened the door. You've opened the door, and once you've opened the door to the forces of darkness, they'll take you to many different places. They'll take you down to Egypt with the brothers. They'll take you down into the 40 years of the desert with the Israelites. King David knew, and this is what Mordechai and Esther knew, if you want to have truly an unending connection with the light of the Creator, if you really want to have the blessings that the Creator desires to give to you, the blessings that you deserve and are really ready to receive, there's only one way. Simplicity always. Simplicity always. Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. Simplicity, but again through work. And this needs to be besides an opening on Shabbat, and this Shabbat Zachor, and on Purim, to beg for this level of tmimut, to beg for this level of simplicity. We also have to work for it. Next time somebody does something that upsets us, say, I'm not going to get upset. This is coming from the Creator. Next time I want to feel disappointed, or I don't understand, or I have all kinds of questions, why, how, this doesn't make any sense. Remember the brothers. Remember the Israelites. Remember King David. The only way that we can close off ourselves from the negative side is by developing this true level of tmimut, this true level of simplicity. What happens, I take it in. This is coming from the Creator. I am with the Creator, and this is going to be for the best. I'm not going to ask, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to worry, I'm not going to be disappointed, I'm not going to be upset. Lo yimna tov ma'olech tamim. As Rav Brandwein told the Rav time and again, if you achieve this level of simplicity, no matter what this person did to you, no matter what that person did to you, no matter what happened to you, I accept it. And we'll read these words again from King David, if we can merit to remember these always. Vayomer hamelech letzadok. The King David says to Tzadok, the Kohen, Hashev et Aron ha'elokim ha'ir. Take back the ark into the city. Im emtzachen beinei Hashem leheshivanu. If it's what the Creator wants, I will be back. V'hira'ani oto ve'et naveu. And I will see Jerusalem and I will see the ark. V'im kol yomar lo chafatzti bach. But if the Creator decided that for whatever reason, he no longer wants me to be king, hineni. I accept it without doubt, without question, without complaint, without anger. Ya'aseli ka'asher tov be'enav. He should do with me what he desires. And King David achieved this level of simplicity, and what we have to beg for, besides the work that we have to do to achieve it, to beg for on the Shabbat, and to beg for on Purim, is to give us this level of tmimut. Give us this level of simplicity. And as Rav Brandwein promised the Rav, Lo yimna tov ma'olech tamim. If you have this level of simplicity, there's no blessing, there is no light that can be stopped from flowing to you. It's an amazing understanding. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we've all heard this concept. But to deepen, we have to deepen our consciousness about it, we have to deepen our understanding about it, and we have to work towards it. Because this is everything. This is what seals off Amalek from coming in, the forces of negativity from coming in, and then chas v'shalom, if not, it is the door that allows all the forces of negativity to come in. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all merit a greatening of our level of tmimut, and therefore through that, all the blessings that come with them. Shabbat shalom.